So good afternoon and welcome to week 2. Thank you so much for sharing your one words. One word has so many layers and is so telling. Sometimes all we just need is one word to hear what someone else has experienced because it's so loaded. So last week we learned about what it was like to flourish individually, what that means. This week we're going to look at what it means to flourish in relationship and in community. If there are any technical issues, please just let me know if you cannot hear me or cannot see my screen. Okay, but just some really important stuff, right?
You don't have to.
Justine Swan, can you put your microphone off, please? Justine? Thank you. So just some important stuff that I feel we need to pause before continuing with today's lecture. It is really important in order to benefit fully from this course that you need to watch the Zoom lecture, that you need to do the activities and the content on the lessons tab. Now, while these are not for grades, these questions and activities are designed in order for you to, I think Sarah said it, to consolidate your learning, but also to help you prepare for the assessments. Okay, so it's very important that you do this. I am looking at those who have engaged. I see that some have not engaged the activity. So please, you're doing yourself a disservice if you choose not to do the activities or go through the actual content, okay? Assessment due dates, there was a question about that. It's on the module outline. Please don't begin an assessment or submit it before I've provided the template. And I will be doing a short tutorial next week on assessment 1. So in this module and with Theron Little, you don't ever have to panic. I ask you, or stress, I ask you to stay calm. You will be provided timelessly with everything that you do need. You can begin working on a draft with the content that you have already, but just bear in mind that X amount of content needs to be covered first before you can deliver a substantial assessment. Okay. Please check your announcements. Please read the introduction page. I don't mind answering questions, but when it does become a bit frustrating is if I'm answering questions that I've already stipulated in the introduction page. The introduction page is purposefully detailed. So please take the time to read through that before posting a question. If you're not on the WhatsApp group, I encourage you to do so. It's going to become a critical tool for our communication. Are you still with me? Can I get a heads up? Hello? You still with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why my meeting time is saying 8 minutes when I should have 40 minutes. If we get cut off, please can we just return via the same link? To understand a tree, Laverne Perkins and Perkins says, to understand a tree, it is necessary to study both the forest of which it is a part, as well as the cells and the tissue that are parts of this tree. So we look at this beautiful tree, it's got these big bold roots, it's tall, it's got these wonderful green leaves. But in order for us to understand how it was able to reach its fullest potential, we need to understand the ecosystem in which it lived. So what kind of soil did it need? What kind of rain? How much sunlight enabled this tree to become all that it can be? And what are those factors in the ecosystem that would debilitate this tree's ability to become all that you see it is today? So this is the very same with people. We cannot understand an individual in isolation. We need to look at everything that encompasses an individual. So we see an acorn right now, and this acorn looks... Damien,
My whole life been disrespectful.
Damien, we love your singing voice, but can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Okay, so the acorn looks okay, right? But is the goal of human life just to be okay? So if you look at this acorn right now, it's just okay, right? But if the acorn is given the right environment, enough sunlight, enough rain, and all that it needs in order to flourish, which we learned last week, then, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the acorn looks like when it has reached its fullest potential. Very exciting. So we need to, I've used this metaphor of the acorn and the tree. It's the very same with individuals. If given the right environment, if given the right help, if given the right nurturing, if given enough empathy and understanding and compassion, then human beings can also become all that they are meant to be. And so your role as a helper is really one, if you look at it from the metaphor, is that you're creating the correct environment for your client to reach his or her fullest potentialities. This acorn could not become this tree if it did not have the right environment. So how do we make sense? I mean, you're studying psychology because you want to. I study psychology because I'm really hungry to understand and make sense of why someone thinks the way they do, why they act the way they do, and why do they behave the way they do. And so when you get into real life, especially in South Africa, you are going to be faced with some of the most atrocious thoughts, some of the most despicable acts. We look at the act, was it last year, of Uyanene, where the post office man was very premeditated in how he lured her into the post office with the very intent to rape. I'm not sure if the intent, he says, this is a quote, he says, I intended to rape and I intended to kill Uyanene. Last year as well, a child abductor, rapist and murderer. He was a friend of the family. So we try to understand what is it about someone who gets close to a family with the intent of harming. What is going through that individual's mind? Why do they behave the way they do? Oscar Pistorius, physically disabled, and because of his disability, he was very insecure about himself and his physical safety. He had a history of temper and rage. This picture speaks 1,000 words. It speaks of deep remorse. Uyanene's killer did not have any remorse. But this is what you're faced with. How do we begin to understand Oscar's act if we don't look at the full picture and all those factors that impacted why he did what he did, why he thought he was justified in doing what he did? So no man, ladies and gentlemen, is an island. No man is an island. We were created for community. We were created for relationship. Would you believe me if I told you as a teenager and in my very late teens, I did not like people? The fact that I am in a profession of people still blows my mind.
Hello?
I love people.
Hello?
Michelle?
Hello?
I love people today, but back then I didn't, because I thought I didn't need people. I thought I could be alone in my room and thrive and grow. I was rudely awakened. You cannot thrive in isolation. This is why loneliness is connected to depression, and often depression is connected to suicide, because there is no space to grow when we isolate ourselves. Our ability to thrive and flourish is severely compromised when we decide to isolate ourselves. Do you have any thoughts at this stage? I've said quite a bit. Any thoughts that you'd just like to share on that? Your own personal thoughts. You're going to have to unmute yourself. Anybody? Does it make sense that we cannot flourish on our own? Does
Just
it make...
Darren?
Yes, Johannes.
I think just for myself as well, I think I've also in my earlier years been a person who tended to shy away from people, thinking that I could just do things by myself, and also realized that how that could actually harm you,
Yes.
because the way that you grow through life is through human connection.
Johannes, sorry, can I just stop you? My time is about to cut. Supposed to get 40 minutes. If it does cut, can everyone just re-enter immediately, please? Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I just thought, my point after that was just on how important human connections is for so many things in life.
For growth. Thank you.
Growth.
Yes, thank you so much for that vulnerability. Absolutely, Johnny, you say you can relate. Because in order to grow, we also need to engage with those people that we don't always